Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
Wrestling gives you tools to really, we're the most powerful people in the world because we care about ourselves, and we push ourselves first so we can hold other people accountable.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
If I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gents, we're back. We've done it. Episode 152 is here, and I'm proud to say it's an Illinois boy, Nate Jackson. Illinois state champion, two-time All-American for Indiana University, during which time he had some epic battles with Bo Nickel and actually gave Bo Nickel a loss his junior year. Nate's junior year, that is. Now, Nate Jackson is coaching at Princeton. He just got done with his fourth year there. He's also a member of the NJRTC. I love this conversation. I hope you do as well. Fan of the Week goes to Steve Miglieri, Sales Director from the Twin Cities. Thank you for tuning in, Steven. I appreciate it. And folks, this episode is brought to you by the Wrestling Changed My Life online store. You can go to store.wrestlingchangedmylife.com to buy podcast t-shirts, hoodies, stickers. All proceeds go to support this fine show. It's store.wrestlingchangedmylife.com. And if you want to keep up to date with the show, follow us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life. I post a ton of videos and clips from the interviews. Also on Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, and WrestlingChangeMyLife.com for all past episodes. That's it, folks. Let's give it up for Nate Jackson, the family man. Peace! Nate Jackson, welcome to the podcast, my friend. How are you?
I'm pretty good, Ryan. Nice to finally get on the show.
Indeed, man. Indeed. Are you out in Jersey right now?
I am.
What's the scene with the New Jersey RTC right now, man? I've always said we should do a reality show on you guys. Do you guys all live together, or you all hanging out all the time?
So I have a family. I have a wife and kids, and I can't hang with those guys all the time. But those guys are a lot of fun. They actually do have a house, and whenever I need to have a good time and want to hang out with those guys, it's a lot of unexpected shenanigans going on. I think that having a reality show is right up their alley. That their personalities are all different. CJ Brucky, Pat Downey, Bryce Meredith at the time, and so it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Now let's go back to the grassroots with you. So you've had an incredible career and have really grown your technique, grown your brand throughout the years. But I understand your pops got things started at the with the Fort Heights Falcons. Is that right?
Yeah, Fort Heights Falcons. So I was born and raised in Fort Heights for the first 5 years of my life. And once we moved out of that town, my dad really wanted to stay connected with the community. So he actually started a wrestling club, which, I mean, wrestling is the best sport. And it directly hit those kids. So it was really cool to be a part of that with him. And it was tough because I was his son and he did not take it easy on me. My first year wrestling, I actually wanted to quit. It was crazy. But
was he a wrestler?
He wrestled a little bit in high school. I think his freshman or sophomore year, he wrestled, and he loved the sport. He had some buddies growing up in high school that wrestled, and he did a lot of different sports. But he had some guys who were really successful. The Bloom Trail, they had a bunch of high school state champs right around the time that he went there. So
okay,
he looked up to a lot of those guys who were wrestlers.
And now, from what I understand, we're going to start talking about one of my favorite topics. Now, this is a national podcast. I spent 25% of my time talking about the Harvey Twisters.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. Well, you're in Illinois, dude. You better.
I know, right?
Better.
So when did you start working out with those guys?
I think I was 9 years old. Was my first year. So I was with Bloom Trail Blazers, and then wanted just something new, and different challenges. I actually went and wrestled as a Harvey Twister. In my first year, I just like killed everybody. So I had a really, really good year. And then crazy enough, I was wrestling in the state finals, midget state, super heated, whatever. I mean, and dude, IKWF, man, it's brutal. Like IKWF is, I put them with anybody in the nation with, just kids wrestling. But yeah, so I wrestled this kid, and I took him down, let him up, took him down, let him up, took him down, let him up, and then got pancaked and pinned in the state finals. So it was sick. That sucked. I still have the picture of me crying. But I actually wrestled him my first match back. In the next year, and majored him, and it felt great. But dude, crazy, man, crazy. So
did you make it back to the IKWF finals multiple times and after that, or?
No, actually, no. I never won a state finals since I did when I was really young. So when I was 7 years old, I won it was one of the first years in 2003, I believe. Yeah, it was one of the first years. So maybe I was a little bit older than that. But yeah, I won and didn't win again until high school. So it was just chasing it. I didn't make the finals before then either. I ran into Eddie Clamara, who's turned out to be a pretty good wrestler.
Oh man!
Guys like Ricky Robertson, really good wrestler. Blaze Butler, really good wrestler. But
dude, I heard Ricky Robertson was a beast in IKWF, dude.
He was good, man. I remember wrestling him. He was I had different nemesis throughout my career, but at one time it was 2 years in a row where he just had my number. He had this really good switch. From bottom, and it was really tough on top. So I actually got a win in IKWF. It was the last win, Ricky, but but man, he used to really beat me up. And guys like that push you.
Dude, you don't hear about kids with a good switch anymore. That's IKW. That's middle school talk, isn't it? Watch out, kid's got a good switch.
He's got a good switch. I was like, what are you talking about? We'll see. Boom, he hit me with it every time. But he was really
man.
tough.
You talk about some of your nemesis. Is that, I don't even know how to say it. You said it much. Nemesis. We're going to bounce around a little bit, but man, another one that has to come to mind. I'm thinking Bo Nickel. You guys had some battles. First time you scrapped with him, was it the Indiana duel at home?
Yeah, that was our first match. Yep, at Indiana.
So going into that, and we're gonna come back and get to how you got to Indiana, because the progression and some of the things you dealt with is incredible to me. But you're at this point, you've been at Indiana, what, 2.5 years? Because you redshirted.
Yeah, I was a junior. So I started in the spring semester. It was really weird. So I had half a redshirt year and then just started wrestling. So
okay,
it was my junior year. So I was there for longer than 2 years at that point.
So you've been there, battle tested, just been grinding.
Yeah, I was in it.
What were you thinking before that match? I mean, did he have the hype attached to Bo Nickel that we all know now? Because he had just
he had just come off. It's weird. So it was right in the middle of the year. We look at rankings. In the beginning of the year, you see rankings, and Bo Nickel's name's all the way at the bottom because he hadn't really done anything. He's a freshman, but he has really high expectations. So he starts wrestling. He beats Zach Epperly, who's a really tough guy. He beats all these tough guys, and then he wrestles at the Southern Scuffle and just crushes everybody. And then they put him at number 1 in the country, right? So he had probably been number 1 for maybe a week or so or whatever. And, they came to wrestle us. And I was feeling pretty good, just matchup-wise. He's a longer guy like me. He likes wrestling and doing different moves and being in positions. Guys like that, I felt really comfortable with wrestling because I was a pretty wide-open type of wrestler. I just wanted to score points. And I was good in a lot of different areas. And he was similar. So I was excited for the matchup. I knew that he was going to do this headlock thing that he does. Or no, this double arm throw thing that he does from when he gets to stand up. So he goes stand up, double arm throw, and pins guys and whatnot. So
Like a front to back, like you're on top and he stands up.
I'm on top. He stands up. I'm behind him. He just reaches over, grab here, and then steps and pops his hips into. And like he had been killing guys with it, and it was kind of cool to watch, just as a wrestling fan, But I thought that was an area that I could actually exploit a little bit. Me and my coach me and Dwayne worked on it a little bit. And like when Dwayne is giving you some key things, like you zero in on him because he knows what he's talking about. And he said that this position might come into play. So I was like, all right, let's work on it a little bit. So basically, the exact same thing happened in the match. I mean, the match was pretty cool. Like I got in on a really good shot. He got in on some good stuff. He had some scores. I had some scores. But the position that really won me that match, I didn't wrestle a great match, honestly. If you watch the end of the match, like I was pretty exhausted. Cutting weight my junior year was really tough. 174. The year after, I went up to 184. But just a tough year, especially dual season. So tournament wise, I was like really really tough. But dual was really tough for me.
Especially that Big Ten grind, dog. You're mid-season at that point. You're hurting on the weight cut.
It's something that people don't really think about. Like they think about cutting weight and how it's done and doing it the right way and whatnot. But I think back-to-back matches where you really have to get up and be on your game. And I can talk about that a little bit more after, because after I wrestled Bo Nickel, like I won. I beat him in this position. Like he does this double arm throw, he goes for it. I hit like this inside trip right then and got him on his back, and then really just used defense for the rest of the way, kind of fighting through some weird little scrambles and whatnot to because he was coming hard. He was trying to win,
A win is a win, though, dog. A win is a win.
No. Absolutely. So I was cool with it. And I think that a lot of people are like, man, you beat Bo Nickel. Like, you beat Bo Nickel. And now it's like, Bo Nickel went on to be a 3-time national champ. But at the time, I'm like, yeah, this kid is a freshman. Like, I was supposed to beat him. Like, I don't know. He was number one in the country and whatnot. But after that, you continue with the dual season. I wrestled Devontae Mahomes, who was from Illinois, and he's tough. I lose a close match after winning and just kind of waned off at the end. I might lose another close match. I can't remember to who. But, and then I'm right back to where I kind of was, like, right in the top 10 in the country. But, yeah, man, it was a weird year. And then
did you wrestle Myanmar in the duel that year?
Yeah, so he beat me too. I think I lost like 3 in a row, like right after beating Bo. And Miles actually had my number. He still continues to have my number, but I'm gonna figure that out. But his freshman year, I wrestled him 4 times, and I lost by 1 point 3 times, and then 1 time, like our first match in the Big Tens, because we wrestled twice at Big Tens. My first match against him, he beat me up pretty bad, and then the second time it was really close again. But yeah, man, it's a grind, and the cool thing about wrestling Bo is like after wrestling him, like I didn't feel like I wrestled very well. I knew I'd wrestle him again. It's Big Tens. I thought I wrestled him at the Big Tens, but it ended up being in the national semifinals. So I wrestled him there, and when I tell you, like, if I could redo everything, like obviously, right, I would want to be back in that situation. But the first 2 periods, went kind of exactly how I wanted them to. I just kind of took my foot off the gas toward the end. Could have probably opened up and scored a little bit more points, but I was winning that match, controlling that match, and getting into positions I wanted to be in, and kind of keeping him out of his best positions in that semifinals. And I ended up losing 5-4. Just a little, like, he got 1 score and rode really tough right at the edge, and got like riding time, and it was he wrestled great, but one of those that stings still to this day. And we haven't had a rubber match, so always down to have a rubber match with Bo Nickel. We're around the same weight all the time, so I don't know, but
dude,
who cares?
We're trying to make matches right now. Let's do that one. Let's do it in the parking lot of Madison Square Garden. Whatever we got to do, man. Let's get it going.
That's it, man. That would be sick.
Now, let me ask you this. I've seen in the past that you went through a phase at IU. I don't know if it's your junior year or your senior, where you used to carve 2 and then 3 in your eyebrows. What was the significance behind that? Do you remember that?
Yeah. So 2 and 3, right? That's 23. So Michael Jordan was a closer, So my senior year is when I really started doing this. was because, a lot of my matches in the junior year, especially in duels, I just wasn't closing. So if you go back and look, like it looks really weird. I was like, dude, what a weirdo. Like I was in these interviews with Big Ten and whatnot, and having these, the slashes and eyebrows. I was like, man, this is pretty weird. But I thought about it, and it's like my senior year, I actually won all my Big Ten matches. Some guys ducked in there, which maybe not guys, but clubs or teams ducked their wrestler. But I was able to finish off matches really well. I thought my senior year, I wrestled my best up until I ended up getting hurt a little bit toward the end, and then just kind of gutted out to finish in the to All-American. But yeah, man, my junior year, I made a really crazy run. I was a 13 seed, and I majored everybody up until the bow match. And then, lost obviously, but
right.
It was cool to just wrestle free. And I think that was my best shot of winning it all that year, because my body was in its best form, and my mind was really sharp on what I needed to do. Couple positions, man, like literally game of inches. And I was a couple positions away from being a national champ, I think. I mean, it's funny. So I was actually really preparing for Miles Martin going into the national tournament, because I hadn't beaten him, and I lost to him 4 times in a row. So I wasn't doing something right, So like, obviously, like I'm looking at the bracket and Bo's on my side, but I felt like I was going to win that match. I did not, Bo was the better man. But Miles Martin was like, I was really zeroed in on trying to beat him, and he ended up winning that year. So me and Miles are kind of cool, so he's a cool dude, and he works hard. So he deserved that for sure.
Yeah. Another great nickname. It's funny. I had Imar on last week, and I was recording the intro for it about 2 hours ago. And I said how Imar is one of the coolest nicknames, but I forgot Mymar's right there too.
Yeah,
now,
man.
Talk about a couple of things jump out to me about your junior season. One, the grind of the dual season, January, February. Now that you're a coach, how do you help guys mitigate some of the emotional swings that they'll go through during that, whether it's feeling sorry for themselves, being depressed because it's winter, or just cutting too much? Have you noticed any way to help mitigate that with guys that you're coaching now?
Yeah, I think as a staff, we do a lot of things on like an individual basis. We really cater to what the athletes' needs are, whether that be having a conversation about different things, asking them what they're doing, getting extra workouts in to manage weight. And honestly, like, and when I was in college, like I just kind of did what everybody did, and we just kind of followed form and did everything together. And there's something to be said for that as well. You feel that together. And it didn't really work for me, I don't think, too great. I think that if I thought about myself like I think about myself now, I'm thinking about my body because I continue to compete. I think I would have made a lot more gains, and without having so much of a cutoff, like, making all these gains and then you take, half a step back. I could have just kind of made half step gains, a little bit slower, and have it be a little bit more cumulative over the course of the year. So as a staff, like I think Chris does a great job of kind of laying that out, the plan. And then he sticks to the plan. And then at the end of the year, we look at things and we say, this didn't really work. Let's throw this out. Let's try this. And then we tweak it as need be. So I think that's the key. And I think guys are getting a lot more smart just around the country with staffs. So, we try to be on the cutting edge of that. And I think rest and recovery is something that we do a lot of.
You've seen a change just even since you've been in it, though. I feel like there has been jumps in the past 5 years.
Absolutely. And that comes from, the guys, guys who are now in the positions, they felt what they felt like, and they don't necessarily want that for those guys. And even though they got through it and they may be hardened because they went through it, like I went through it and I'm happy that I went through it. I see where I could have made a lot more incremental growth. Just not really year to year, but throughout the year. I think I made really big gains in between years, and then it was like almost maintaining it through all the grind and just hoping your body is going to be okay to go to this national tournament. Like, you want your body to be at its peak. You really want to be primed for competition, and doing the little things throughout the year really kind of help you get to that.
And how much has it I'm sure it's changed a lot now that you're a coach and you're an, professional wrestler. But, when you won the Medved, how much was your training different during the 2 months leading up to that, as opposed to like the 2 months leading up to nationals when you were a junior?
So the training wasn't so much different. It was a lot of grind. I think my mentality changed a lot. So Reese is the head coach at NJRTC and Freestyle Coach of the Year. Great guy, great friend. He kind of helped me take a lot of pressure off of myself. I put a lot of pressure on myself because I want things really bad, and what that turns into is like me having great tournaments, wrestling in the finals, and not delivering, and just coming up short. So I had a lot of second place, a lot of really good performances without that exclamation point at the end. To be able to beat a guy who was right around the top 10 in the world in the finals of Medved after tech falling everybody through the bracket, for me, like, that was the exclamation point I needed, just to prove to myself too, like, obviously I think I can do it, or I wouldn't be doing it, but I know that on the grandest of stages I can perform as long as I'm loose and I'm prepared. Now, I was really prepared. I don't think it was too much different than I think about my junior year run. I think about that match in the semifinals. That was basically my biggest match of that tournament, and how I let my foot off the gas. And I think about my match against Shapiev, who was really good. I got out to a lead really early, and then when he started to rally, I had some answers and I had some more scores because I was building my lead. And that experience helped me get to that experience. And dude, that Medved thing was nuts. That was one of the craziest experiences of my life, just because I was on a team and I was really just happy to be there. There's some really great wrestlers on our team. And I showed up and really, really put an exclamation point on USA Wrestling. And then, I went to the World Championships as Pat Downey's partner, just drilling and whatnot. And a lot of guys knew me from Medved that I had seen there, and that's cool. Then I can take that with me and I can share those experiences. And then when it's my time to do that and be the guy who's representing USA, I've been there before. So yeah, that's
do you ever think back to like when you were a junior in high school, you placing as a junior at the Assembly Hall and then kind of driving back up to Chicago after the state tournament? That Sunday after high school state can be a kind of a weird day for guys. Would you ever think that you'd be warming a guy up at the World Championships and winning the Medved?
Yeah, so like you hear guys and like they have these stories about how when they were a kid they knew they wanted to be Olympic champion and they wanted to be world. Like, I didn't really have that. So when I was a kid, I liked wrestling and I did wrestling. I liked baseball and I did baseball. And I liked football and I did football. And I liked a lot of different sports and I did them. And I kind of honed in on wrestling and it became like this great thing for me, this special thing that I could have to myself, and I've been just along for the ride and not really taking it for granted. I've been able to look back on the things that I've accomplished, even winning a high school state championship and, doing it in the way that I wanted to do it. And now, like, winning a Medved title and doing it in a way that represents how I've always wrestled. I think that's way more valuable than, all this other stuff. But now that I see it, I want it too, so like, just like you think about, you don't want to be a state champion until you think you can do it. If you don't ever go down to state and see what it's like it's hard sometimes to envision what that is like. So being able to step on that world stage and see my partner who I battle with in practice every day, be really close to bringing home a medal. Like, I know that I can do that. I know that when I'm on that stage, I'm going to win it, dude. Like, I honestly believe that. I think that I have something unique for the international style wrestlers anyways. But we have
you wrestle such a wide open style. It's fun to watch, man. Yeah,
no, it's fun for me to wrestle it, dude. Like, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't having fun with it. Like, honestly. So like I wrestled at Bill Farrell this past year, because obviously this year nothing's happening. And I wrestled a guy who beat Jaden Cox in the World Championships, and it was a world silver medalist, and like teched him, like trashed him, really did him really bad. And it's because like I don't have as much pressure as I used to put on myself. I know that how I would have wrestled that guy a long time ago, it would have been a lot different. And I think even losing to Bo Nickel, like, it kind of showed me like you don't have to be your best to be the best guy. You don't have to, you don't have to do this world breaking stuff. You just can't be afraid. Can't be scared of the challenges. And I think that's something that's great about wrestling. Like you learn that through failure. You learn that through success. Like if you step up to the challenge of what's in front of you, like you can rise to the occasion. It's all about you getting the best out of yourself. I think wrestling is great because you don't have anybody else out there. You can't look over and say, hey, can you do this for me? It's like you got to do the work yourself, and you're rewarded for the work that you put in. So, yeah.
Dude, let me ask you about this. You mentioned a couple of times how Reese has helped you with your mental preparation, and that before maybe you would have put too much pressure on yourself. Talk to us about that a little bit. So what was your self-talk maybe 4 or 5 years ago versus what it is now? Was it more focusing on winning and losing versus the effort, or how did that change?
Yeah, I think it was winning and losing because, you have different moments throughout your wrestling career, of doubt. You go out there and you get your ass kicked. You have a little bit of doubt. You go out there and you get your hand raised. You get a little bit of confidence. So when you start getting your hand raised enough and you see other people doing the same thing around the country and you're like, man, I could beat that guy. I could beat this guy. I could beat that guy. And then you look around and you're like, man, I should be at the top of the podium this year. And then when you lose, and you take a step back, you sometimes you lose sight of the big picture. Like, hey, you can do this. What are you not doing to be able to do this? And that's kind of the thing that I really struggle with. It's just like, I know that I can do it. So I'm so hyper focused on winning a national title every match. It's like, no, dude, you gotta put yourself in positions to get better at the positions. You got to put yourself in risk. You can't protect your lead. Like when you score again, make them stop your best thing. So then when you get to the national championships, you have an answer when he stops your best thing. You got to have that it's just like anything. You do it first, and you get more experience with doing it. So when all else fails, you'll have something. Sometimes in the national finals or in the national championships, I got shut down in certain positions and it's like, why is that happening? It's like, well, even though it's happening, I'm sitting here focused on why it's happening to me when I could be adjusting and doing something else if I had put in the time,
Yeah, that's the thing about individual sports, and obviously wrestling is the emotional swings you go through as a competitor. If you're basing your self-worth on the results, can be brutal. Like you have a good match, you beat somebody, and then the next time, obviously, you lose a match and your confidence goes up and down. And obviously, you've learned how to master that and transform it. And the jumps you've made following your career has been incredible. You mentioned Reese has a lot to do with it. When was the first time you met Coach Humphrey?
So I actually met him in an interview that he was doing, and he just was like a really he exudes confidence. Like he believes in what he does, and he believes in himself. And I think that, he's a really great guy. He's not like a person who is arrogant or anything like that. But the fact that he puts his confidence first, and he has a gentle heart, and he actually cares about people, and he cares about his family, and like, you can tell like, okay, what is this guy doing? Why is he able to have so much confidence? It's because he believes in his training. Everything goes back to preparation. And he doesn't cut corners, but he even things like simple stuff. Like he taught me how to do a backflip in a day. And I'd never done a backflip in my life because I'd never tried it really, because nobody really had that much confidence in me to do a backflip and not hurt myself. But he's saying, oh, well, if you do this, you'll 100% be able to do it. Like, I know you, you can do this. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then you do it. And it seems simple enough, but there's not always those people saying like, hey, you can do what you're saying you can do, what you set out to do. And he's always been that for me, and he's going to continue to be that for me. I'm pretty confident.
And he's like the guy where a great RTC coach in the sense that RTCs, it's like a fine balancing act. I don't think you could have a college head coach using the college coaching mentality on an RTC, meaning that everything's real structured, everything's real diligent. Reese seems to have that balancing act between the two.
Yeah, man. I mean, guys, it's just it just goes to, the reason we leave college, right, is because we're tired of being kids. We want to be men, and we want to do the things we want to do. And I personally, like, I wouldn't have an ear for somebody like saying, "Hey, this is this." I know how to conduct myself. I know how to be a man. I know how to abide by a schedule, and that's all important stuff. But being like, nobody wants to be a college wrestler for an extended 10 years. Like that was a phase, and it's short because that's what it demands. And it needs to be short. After a while, you don't have an ear for that anymore. And Reese is really, I think that's an area that he's really impressive in. Is that he knows how to get what he needs out of you without, without being, your dad. So it's pretty special. And I honestly, I look to him and I'm like, man, how can I incorporate some of that with my guys? Some of the juniors and the seniors and the captains on the team, because they've heard a lot and they've been through the ringer a little bit. How do you continue to push them without pushing them away?
Right. It's a balancing act, and I gotta say, all due respect, Nate Jackson, that ear pod is it the cauliflower ear there, man, on the right side?
Yeah, dude, it's brutal. It's only one side. You see it.
For the listeners here, the whole time, dude, Nate Jackson here on the video he's like an outfielder, man, catching fly balls.
Gosh,
he's catching the ear pod every time he moves. So respect on your focus, because the listeners would never be able to know, man. I thought it was a cauliflower. I had to confirm though, man.
Yeah.
If it's easier to take it out, we can roll with just the one too.
Okay. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So in addition to Reese coming on board, hey, the New Jersey RTC, you've heard it from everybody. It's grown like crazy. It used to be known as the Nate Jackson RTC, kind of jokingly, right? Because you were the only guy. I'd like to know just how did it grow? I mean, did Reese come in and say, hey, we want to grow this team? Or what was the driving force behind it?
I think so. Obviously, it takes a lot of finesse from both Princeton University and Rutgers, So, the coaches came together and they said, hey, like, we know that this is going to be good for our programs individually. So if it makes sense for us to come together on this and we have to share some of this and share some of that, if it's going to be the best for our programs, then we should do this for New Jersey wrestling. So a lot of RTCs are modeled to be something that's like an umbrella for a university team. I think the NJRTC wanted to be the opposite. We look at Princeton and Rutgers as accessories to the New Jersey Regional Training Center. And, it's a place for our athletes, basically. When a guy graduates from Princeton, if he wants to pursue Olympic dreams, like, obviously there's benefits for our program, but outside of that, like, if he wants to do that, we have something that's there for him, I think that how it all started was really me grinding, going pretty hard. And then, placing in my first, I didn't wrestle freestyle. So Illinois is a great freestyle state, Greco state. I didn't wrestle any of that growing up. So my first
really not even in the off season.
No. So I wrestled. It's crazy, right? I know, and it's weird because my style is like, dude, I should have definitely been wrestling freestyle. I can score points. But university nationals, like I wrestled in that and wrestle folk style in that, and I did okay. I placed a couple times university nationals. And then making the transition to the senior level was different, and I was able to do that pretty smoothly because of under Reese's tutelage, So it just made sense, like, hey, we need to find someone to push this guy that we have here, and have a bunch of guys where we can push each other, we can work out together, and really see what we can do. And we had 2 world team members in the first year, the first try. So like. I want to be a part of that success. And I know that guys around the country are looking like, what are they doing over there? So,
and they're having fun.
Yeah. And we do have a lot of fun too. So, right now it's just trying to figure out how to continue the next phase, so we're pushing and Reese is on the cutting edge. He's always looking and he's always, reaching out to guys and thinking about what we can do to better ourselves. And as we get more experience, more ventures and losses and whatnot, like, I think that it's only going to get better and better. The support from, Princeton University and Rutgers, it goes so far, and it's been everything. Really, it's been overwhelming support. And I think that now that we see that this model is working, it's just going to continue. I mean, you look at Rutgers' wrestling program, you look at Princeton's wrestling program, and we're both like going like this. So we want to meet at the top. I mean, we want New Jersey to be a powerhouse, not just, you know, in the college, but we want them to be a powerhouse grassroots, which are only going to help breed more guys for our programs, you know. And we're selfish, you know, as a program, we want to be really good. So,
dude, it's a beautiful thing to see two enemies working together. I can't think of two schools that are more different in the sense of you got an Ivy League school, you got a state school, and you know, I've had Coach Goodale on. Really enjoy talking to that guy. I haven't had Coach Ayers on though. I'll have to do so because what you guys are doing at Princeton is awesome. I mean, the growth is, and your schedule is ridiculous.
Yeah, so we try to be like an Ivy League team with a Big Ten schedule, you know, and even like, you know, 365 days in a year, 364 days of those, you know, Rutgers and Princeton, we're in support of each other. Like, I don't think that, you know, we don't really clash as much as it might, you know, lead on. We're really close, you know, we're like 30 minutes apart, you know, but we support each other and we want each other to have success because it's just going to breed more talent and more excellence and guys who want more, you know, want to go to college and wrestle within our state. But man, that one day a year where we got, you know, big Ivy, or is it Big Ivy rivalry? Dude, it is nuts. Yeah, and we're in 100% behind our guys to win. And then after the duel, it's like, hey, all right, you know, whatever. See you later. Maybe be a little salty for a couple days, depending on who comes out on top. But yeah, man, that just makes it even better. You get those New Jersey fans to see that. You get those kids. You know, I got kids. They all get to see what this is, and we could turn this into a wrestling state. You know.
No question about it. The high school and youth level is so strong already, and you got it's just it's a really gritty place. One of the things I want to ask, this may be a stupid question, but you're a senior level athlete. When the college season's going and you're doing your normal RTC workout, if it happens to be at Rutgers, will you still go and work out at Rutgers, even though you're a coach at Princeton?
So it's weird. It just depends on what's going on. So, great question. It's a good question. Not a bad question at all. The answer is sometimes. It just depends on what's going on. I follow Reese really. Like I crave his coaching. So when he's somewhere, I want to be where he is. We practice at different times. And you know, we split time in between the locations. But you know, if we have a competition that's coming up really soon, you know, I might take that time, maybe do an individual race in the morning, and be with my guys to be kind of a little more hands-on there. You know, and it takes some finesse from me. It takes some finesse from all staffs, but it tends to be like that. So we have PWC, which is what I'm under, basically. And then you got Scarlet Knight Wrestling Club, which is the Rutgers athletes. And for the most part, we want to be together, but we're not always together, you know. So I think that's good because it's good. Sometimes I get in there with the Rutgers kids and I get to wrestle those guys. Sometimes, you know, Pat Downey gets in here with our Princeton kids, you know, and gets to wrestle our guys. So, yeah, it's a good thing.
I think it's cool. I hope we see more of it because, you know, some of the times it's just there's not enough to go around, right? And there's not that many senior level athletes. So if you can find a situation where the schools are close and you can combine them, I think it's a beautiful thing. I want to go back to something non-wrestling related. I read that you were part of the forensic team in high school and that you were involved with To Kill a Mockingbird. What were you? So was that like a thespian thing or what is the forensic team?
Yeah, so it's forensic speech, right? So it's yeah. So my sister, she's actually an actress in Chicago. I think she's actually trying to be a director, playwright, and whatnot. But yeah, so she's that. My family is very different. Like one person is like an artist. One person is like into music. My youngest brother actually is still wrestling. I wrestle. My big sister's an actress. So we do what we like. And my parents, we've been pretty fortunate because our parents really support what we want to do. My sister went to school for acting, Bradley University, which is a great school, private school. And she got a full ride for acting, you know, and she has a degree in it, you know, like, and I wanted to be closer to my sister. So I did whatever she wanted. She's a couple years older than me, with one grade year older than me. So I followed her around. After what used to happen is after wrestling practice, I would go down to the speech room, and they would still be doing everything. Like they worked. We think we worked really hard. Like they put in so much time into those things after hours at the school. Like we were there until 7 o'clock some nights. You know, it was nuts.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'm sitting there, and it's like I have to wait for her to be done. You start listening, and like you start adding input, and then it's like, hey, we actually need a person to do something. Would you like to do this? And it's like, yeah. So I was actually a part of a team that made it to state in group interpretation, which is it's an acting thing. So I think we took third at state and fourth at state in 2 different years. So like I was a part of that, which is nuts. And it's a really cool experience. And I took an acting class in college because I remembered that my senior year, I took an acting class because I was like, oh man, I love acting. I want to do this again. So I did it, and it was great.
So how is the forensic team different than acting then? Or why is it called the forensic team? Because I'm thinking like some kind of investigative thing.
So it's weird. It's acting, but you don't have necessarily like a whole stage to put on a production. So you have maybe a 2x4 over here, and this is the only thing that's and you guys work around this with the group interpretation, and it changes. So like my sister did AC, which is like comedy. So she would be a bunch of different characters, and they have a different way of doing it. But like, it's so many great things. It's like performance in the round, which is basically theater, but you're in a circle, and it's so much different stuff. Like I honestly think that it's not explored enough. Me and my sister went to Marian Catholic, which is it's an art school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a band school really, but performing arts, so they were huge in as well. But through that, like I met a lot of friends that do different things, and I still have like people who do these things that I have no connection to right now, that I can ask like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Because I have no experience in this at all, and I think that that's really valuable in our society. Like getting different perspectives is so important. So
it's cool that you meet someone who's not so single-mindedly focused, and you have experiences from all different walks of life. I don't think there's been anyone I've interviewed who was a part of something in the arts, if you will, in high school. And so I had to ask, how long did you do it for?
I did it for 2 years. So it was just 2 years in a row. I think I did an okay job. One time I forgot my lines, but they couldn't tell because I like figured out the lines at some point, and it dramatic build up. It was actually when I played Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird. But yeah, man, it was a great experience, and I wouldn't take it back for anything.
Would you be more nervous for that or for stepping out there at Assembly Hall in the finals match?
That 100%. Yeah. Anytime I'm talking and I got to remember something, and if I mess up, everybody else is gonna fail with me. Like that stuff is pressure. Like being able to wrestle and go out and do something that I've trained for, that's not pressure. That's me really just being able to seize a moment, and it's either I do it or I don't.
Right. Now that's cool, man. And it kind of just speaks to the person you are. You have a lot of different focuses. You're a coach, you're a father, you're a husband, you're a man of the performing arts, if you will. And one of the
I love it. No, I go see shows and whatnot. It's cool. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the last things I want to ask you was, you wrestled in college and are still wrestling now with a family. So you had, was it a son or a daughter at first when you were going through college? A son. You talk about time management. I don't know how you did it, my friend. And I can see now you don't got any gray hairs. So talk about, I've heard you talk about this before. You say there really is no balancing act. Like when you're being a father, you're not trying to balance texting a recruit, right? So talk about that and how you manage your time by not balancing, so to speak.
I think it comes down to communication. So I've been able to do this through trial and error. Like me and my wife really hammering out like the things that we need to get done, and the things that we need to get done, like you have to do them or it's not good. So these things are important, like raising a kid, figuring out their schedule with school and different things, figuring out my wife's schedule, things like that have to be pretty explicit, because if you leave things to chance and say, oh, whatever, She probably, I told her the other day, whatever. No, it's like things don't work in college. We had some tough times because I wasn't explicit in things that were happening and needed to happen. And as I grown up into a man, I started to learn like, hey, like, got to be better with my money, got to be more careful on what I'm doing, and not even like the negative things that you're saying, like, okay, I'm going to make a choice to do what I want to do this time and not do the responsible thing. It's the things that you don't think about. You have to ask the questions all the time. And so I have 4 kids. I don't know if you know this now, but I have 4 children. I'm pretty young. I coach at Princeton. I'm still competing. And that only comes because, one, my wife is an angel, and she really supports everything that I've done and that continue to do. And 2, she's really strict with what I need. I need to be explicit, like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? So we can hammer it out, put it on a schedule. And then if it's written down, like, let's do it. And the things that aren't written down, unfortunately, sometimes they get left out and we can't do those things. But then you try to figure out times when you can do these great things. So yeah, it's just really being strict. And I think wrestling kind of makes it not so bad because I've been told what to do and how to do it. And, you got to do this technique like this, or it's not going to, bear fruit. It's not going to be successful. And that's pretty strict. So I think I'm the right guy for it. I think a lot of people would have taken it as a negative and looked for ways to escape it. And I actually took it as a positive, like, okay, well, if this is what I'm doing and I want to do all these things, how can I maximize them to do them all great in a good way? Because at the end of the day, like, these kids that we're raising are seeing these examples, and there's not going to be an excuse for my son not to do his homework and play his video game, or do his homework and go hang out with friends, do his homework and go play a sport or whatever, because he's seen it. He was raised in it. And I think that's really valuable.
Dude, it's extremely valuable. And the communication piece, it's so easy to just think something in your head and just assume that someone else knows it because Nate Jackson knows it or because Ryan Warner knows it. My girl just moved in with me 2 weeks ago. I'm realizing that is not the case.
Right.
Dude, it's I had to ask, and I assumed communication was part of it. I mean, did your wife live with you when you were at IU, or was she back in Chicago?
Yeah, so she did not live with me for the first semester. It was a really tough semester for me. Just like, I missed her. So I took the first semester off to actually be with my son because, he was born and I had to watch him. I actually got my barber's license in the same time because my dad is a barber, so like, I was able to build that relationship with him for like about 6 months. And then I left, and it was horrible. There was times when my son saw me and he didn't know who I was and all this stuff. And obviously, like, we look back on it, it was a 4-month period. But dude, times like that, like, we really had to be really good communicators on what was happening, what was going to happen. Me and my wife were not married at the time, so we actually got married that next year. And people make promises all the time, and people say like, "Hey, I'm going to go off to college, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then we're going to have this type of life, and this is going to happen after I graduate. This is going to happen." And you know what? Like, I'd be a fool to say like I did everything that I said I was going to do. I've been really blessed and really fortunate that things worked out the way that me and my wife talked about when we were kids. I started dating my wife when I was 17 years old.
Okay.
16 years old for a couple weeks, 17 years old. We were kids, man. We talked about some of these things, and kids do things that kids do crazy things,
Yeah.
But we've supported each other and lifted each other up through everything. And it hasn't been easy, and I don't suggest that everybody take these routes that I've taken. But it worked for us, and because of those things and those lessons that we learned, we don't have to learn more things about each other. We know who we are. So for the most part, just having that support system that's constant, knowing what the expectation is, like, hey, I got to communicate everything because there are so many moving parts. My son is a wrestler. He also does baseball. My daughter does ballet and gymnastics, and she wants to wrestle. My other daughter does ballet. And, in a second, the youngest one, who's 2, is talking about ballet right now. So that coupled with traveling to overseas, like Medved, for example, going and helping funnel guys into this recruiting system, making sure I'm making every practice. And now I'm starting a nonprofit. Like, I don't know. I don't really have a great formula for this, but I'm having the time of my life with the people that I care about. That's really, really it.
That's a beautiful thing. What's the nonprofit you're starting?
So it's called Black Wrestling Association. It's meant to give opportunity and really representation to Black wrestlers and their allies, because our sport is, predominantly a white sport, and it has the potential to grow so much. I think that starts with Black representation. A lot of kids, like personally, like I was talking about my dad's team. I was on an all-Black team, and then I wasn't one of the better kids. There's a lot of kids that are a lot better than me. You talk about the Harvey Twisters. I was on an all-Black team. There's a couple white guys here and there, but for the most part, all Black kids. And again, I'm an 8th grader. I wasn't one of the best kids on there. When we get to high school, you notice a trend on like guys not being in the sport anymore, and it's like, this kid is just as smart as me. This kid is just as has just as much support. Why are they saying no? Why do they not want to do this? And it comes down to just not really having the leadership to look up to, not really having those coaches to see them, or something else, and it's hard to stay in it. I was a captain on my wrestling team for 2.5 years, and this is in college, and I love those guys to this day. But sometimes it's lonely when you don't share an experience with someone, and even when you connect, just like me and you are connecting now, it's hard to make someone feel exactly how you feel about certain things. And when you have to do it so much in life, especially as a man, like in college, you tend to choose not to do that. You choose the path of least resistance, and that might be the worst thing. Not talking about things and not being explicit on the things that are going on in different issues. So if we can be a big brother to some of these kids who are feeling that, I think that Black inclusion in the sport will really permeate through the wrestling culture, because the wrestling culture is awesome and it's great. And I'm just using my platform, as a wrestler, to try to bridge some of the societal gaps that we have. And there are some really deep wounds and some really tough stuff that we need to get into with society. But I might not be the best person for those tasks, but I know that I can do something within my community. And if enough people do something within their community, that's really how big change happens.
And it's called Black Wrestlers Association?
Black Wrestling Association.
Black Wrestling Association.
Yes, BWA. Yep.
How will it take shape? Will it be finding a big brother, big sister? Will it be a club? How will it?
It's going to be a nonprofit organization. I'm thinking it's going to be a nationwide thing.
Okay.
It's going to be really about membership and mentorship. So
nice.
Think about Beat the Streets, going out, guys go wrestle and teach clinics and things like that. We'd be pretty good at that. Some of the guys in it I'm sure kids would love to see. But I think that we need more of a voice. We need more of guys going out to talk to these kids, because honestly, like, I can care less about whether or not I'm a wrestler. I want you to know who I am as a human being. And then you'll actually do the homework to try to figure out why I'm the way I am. And I am the way I am because of the sport that I chose, And, if enough people do that, we get that out there, it's going to be kids pouring in.
Dude, it only takes one person. I mean, think about Beat the Street started. It's kind of hard to trace the roots of it, but let's say someone had the idea. They started it, and now, 20 years later, thousands of people have been impacted by it. And I love that you're doing the same thing. So if there's anything we can do to help get the word out, let us know.
Absolutely.
I saw that you had tweeted, you're like, that account has more followers than you do. And I'm like, I didn't know if that's something you started or what. So I figured I'd ask.
Yeah. So I actually started it. It was an idea brought from a friend, but it was brought through, tough issues within the world. And it wasn't because of George Floyd's death, it was because of the conversation of, has continued, and it's just the same type of thing. And you get tired of talking about things. So do something. It was time for me to do something, and I got the right people to do it. It's me and about 10 other guys, and not to mention other guys outside, but we were considered the founders of it.
Okay.
All wrestlers that I'm sure you're familiar with: Kerry McCoy, Jordan Burroughs, BJ Futrell, Kyvan Gatson, Kenny Monday, and Gabe Townsend, James Green, like Mark Hall. Like it goes on, and it comes from this shared feeling, Kevin Jackson, shared feeling that we have.
Wow.
So if we can make a big impact on, a couple kids here and there, like it'll mean a lot. And again, it's nonprofit. So, I think that it's important that we're doing it, and it's not about making money, like I can care less. It's really going to be about making an impact. The reason that I thought about it was because, like I said, I have kids, and, some of the conversations that I'm going to have with my kids, it's unfortunate, and, it sucks for them because the world isn't exactly how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So what can I do for their kids, right? I might not be here to have those conversations with them, but I can leave something that has started the conversation, and will make sure that the conversation continues. And it'll be from powerful figures in our sport. So,
man, what a great idea. And that doesn't even do it justice. Like I said, whatever we can do to help, let us know. And I think it's important that you guys are all stepping up, and gotta love that there's some Illinois boys on there.
Love it. Yeah. So a few of them actually. Yep.
Cool, man. That's powerful stuff. And I'm glad I asked about it. Last thing I wanted to ask is, have you ever thought about doing a barbershop style podcast out there, man? Just talking wrestling, talking life, because I could see you doing it, having that barbershop background.
So started at IU, I was sports broadcasting, and I always wanted to do it, and then did like this internship and found out that I hated broadcasting. I just didn't like it. It just seemed like it was going to be something that I didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird, the podcast thing just seems like something that I'm gonna do eventually.
Oh, especially with the acting background, dude. I
know. Maybe you can help me. Maybe I can. Maybe I'll be a mentee,
sure.
and pick your brain a little bit, because I am pretty well connected within my wrestling community, and there's a lot of things to talk about, and I can talk forever. Like, thank you for talking, because I could literally just talk your ear off for an hour and a half.
I think you and BJ Futrell and I've had some conversations about him starting a podcast. You guys
was actually my pastor.
Is that right?
Yeah. We're from the same area, man. I used to look up to him, man. He used to be on the football field in the wrestling room. That dude is brutal.
Football field.
Yeah, he was. Oh my gosh. Runner back. BJ was a cold. He was something to see.
Dude, I was 07, he was 08, and you're not kidding, dude. When he came in 2002, 2003, IKWF and IWF merged, and that was the first time we got to see the Twisters, because we had only heard about them because they were IWF.
Yeah.
And I remember at State they came back, and it was the Grand March, and it was like Martinez Fox Valley Elite over here, Vidum Cats over here, and then out of the tunnel, all these guys with the red hoods up, and we didn't know what to think. Dude, I was so intimidated. It was they have a presence about them, Coach Quint's out there, and
Coach
man.
Quint's a legend, man.
So I've made a point to have as many Twisters on as I can. I had BJ, Tony Davis, Mario Morgan, TJ Williams, like all these legends, and obviously now yourself. But I think that there needs to be a voice amongst the podcasting ranks of something associated with the nonprofit you started. So however I can help, man, we're happy to do so.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. That's a great idea. I'm going to write that down.
We'll riff on it, man. But I think especially with that, I did hear that you were a broadcasting major, and that's actually, I saw the interview with the eyebrows when you were being interviewed by BTN. And I'm like, dude, first of all, I just thought it was a badass look anyway on the eyebrow, but I didn't know the story behind it. Last thing I want to ask you, my friend, and we ask everyone this, the name of the podcast is Wrestling Changed My Life. You've talked a little bit at the beginning, some of the things it's given you, but what I love about your story is that you're so well-rounded and that you've done things outside of wrestling. You didn't go to college right away. You were involved in, I'm going to call it thespians of some sort, but acting of some sort in high school. So you have this diverse background in terms of the things you've done. With that being said, what are some of the core lessons or core values you stepped away with, even though you're still now wrestling yourself?
Yeah, so I continue to learn. about the things that wrestling is teaching me, but the number one thing is, you only get what you work for. You only get how much you're willing to really hurt, how much you're willing to sacrifice. And some people that can be off-putting to, but that's life, man. Wrestling is life, and wrestling is growing up, and wrestling is tough. So I know now, like, because of wrestling has given me so much, and they give me this platform. I really have a lot to give the world. I think about some of the things that I want to do, but maybe wrestling is limiting now. Maybe I'm just limiting myself by just being a wrestler. So wrestling gives you tools to really, we're the most powerful people in the world because we care about ourselves, and we push ourselves first so we can hold other people accountable. I mean, I think that this sport does that more so than any other sport or activity, so it's pretty rewarding. And I'm sure it's been said a million times before. But
you said something too that sticks out. Like, even the process of learning is taught to you by wrestling. Like, you learn how to learn by getting your lumps, by taking setbacks. I mean, what better way to learn about yourself than to have a sport that forces you to self-reflect every single day, let alone every single weekend? Every
day. You get humble, man. You get humble from the things you don't learn. And like I said, like, it's like life. Like, life, you can't hide behind whoever. You can't hide behind your parents. You can't hide behind all these things. If you want to be, if you want to grow up, then you have to deal with the things that you need to get better at, or do something else in life. You don't really have that luxury. But with wrestling, like, if you want to be good at wrestling, you have to take your lumps, and then you have to stick with it. You have, like, man, I didn't win a match. I think I might have won a match my first year wrestling, and I hated it. My dad wanted me to quit. I wanted to quit. My dad didn't let me quit. He didn't let me quit, and that was the best decision that was made for me, I think.
Well, I could say it is, because you wouldn't be where you're at now probably without that, and you're impacting a lot of kids' lives just through your actions, through coaching, and just from people being a fan like I am, watching you wrestle, man. It's exciting. Can't wait to see you get back out there. And if you're ever back in Chicago, please let me know. I would love to meet in person.
Sure, I will, man. I will. Thank you. Thank you for reaching out too. Thank you for having me on.
Nate Jackson, you're a bad man. Have a great day. And all great things must come to an end. If you want to hear more from the podcast, text WRESTLE to 555-888. That's WRESTLE to 555-888. You can also find us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, as well as our website, WrestlingChangedMyLife.com. Take care, y'all. Calm. 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 Take care, y'all.